The chandeliers are on. The marble floors are polished. The chef arrived at 5:45 in the morning. The reservation system is open. The pool deck is clean. The rooftop bar is stocked. And right now, in one of the most expensive hotels on earth, a woman who has worked housekeeping for 6 years is standing in a hallway with a full cart of fresh towels. She has been standing there for 40 minutes. Because there is nobody to give them to. 40 rooms on her floor, 3 are occupied. This is not a bad week. This is every week now. And the hotel she works in is not a struggling 2-star. On the wrong street, it is a 5-star property on the Palm Jumeirah, where rooms cost over $600 a night, and the lobby was designed by an architect who charges more per project than most people earn in a lifetime. In January 2026, Dubai's hotels averaged 86% occupancy, the strongest start to a year the city had ever recorded. Hotels were raising rates. A room at the Fairmont was going for AED 775 per night, up 17% from the year before. Dubai was on track for its 4th consecutive record tourism year. Then February 28th happened. And inside 6 weeks, that 86% collapsed to somewhere between 15% and 22%. The Financial Times reported it. CoStar confirmed it. Moody's Analytics then published a forecast that made every hotel CFO in the city go quiet. They said occupancy would fall further to 10% in the second quarter of 2026. Today, we are going to show you what those numbers actually mean, not in a press release, not in a government statement, in a hallway with a full towel cart and nobody to give them to. Here is a number. That sounds simple and is anything but. Dubai operated 87 hotels at the start of 2026. Those hotels held 154,264 rooms. In 2025, those rooms averaged 80.7% occupancy. Across the full year, the highest rate since records began, revenue per available room, was at its peak. The average daily rate had hit AED 775 per night. The tourism department was celebrating. The hospitality sector employed over 250,000 people, and the entire system, every chef, every housekeeper, every concierge, every maintenance worker, every general manager, was geared to run at full capacity. That is the machine that was built. That is the machine that is now running at 15%. And here is the part nobody explains. A machine built for 100% does not cost 15% to operate at 15% occupancy. It costs almost exactly the same to operate whether the rooms are full or empty. The rent on a 300-room luxury hotel in Dubai Marina does not negotiate with a crisis. It arrives on the first of the month at the same number it carried when every table in the restaurant had a waiting list. The electricity bills for industrial kitchen refrigeration, for climate control, across 40 floors for pool heating, for the lighting, in a lobby built to impress 400 daily guests. Those bills do not scale down when 380 of those guests stop coming. The insurance premiums are identical. The licensing fees are identical. The security costs are identical. The water charges are identical. The WTTC, the World Travel and Tourism Council, estimated that the Gulf tourism sector was losing $600 million per day at the peak of the disruption. The UAE's share of that figure, according to analysts at the Middle East Insider, was approximately $180 to $200 million. Every single day, including weekends, including days when the sky was perfectly clear over Dubai Marina and the weather was exactly what every brochure ever promised. So take that number, $180 million per day, multiply it by 60 days. That is the approximate hole that opened in the UAE's tourism economy before the airspace even began to reopen. The math is not complicated. The consequence is. Now stop reading numbers for a moment, because numbers tell you the scale. Only a face tells you the truth. A general manager of a mid-size hotel in Dubai, who asked not to be identified by name or property, described the morning of March 3, 2026, 3 days after the conflict began. He said he stood in his lobby at 7 a.m. and counted the guests coming down for breakfast, 11 people, in a hotel that holds 200 rooms. He had 68 staff on shift that morning, 68 people, preparing, cooking, cleaning, managing, and serving. For 11 guests, he did not send anyone home that morning. He told them to keep working. Because sending them home meant acknowledging something. He was not yet ready to acknowledge that this was not a bad week, that this was a new reality, that the machine he had spent 4 years building was now producing almost nothing. By the end of March, he had placed 40% of his staff on what the industry calls standby status. This is the UAE's version of furlough. You are employed, your contract is active, you receive no wages, you are expected to remain available to return when conditions improve. The Jerusalem Post documented what standby status looks like in practice. Workers housed in staff accommodation are required to pay for their own food, despite earning nothing. Workers on reduced schedules face salary cuts of 20% to 50%. In some properties, teams that once had 30 active staff are now running on 3 or 4 people, and here is the detail that makes this specific to Dubai and nowhere else on earth. Every single one of those workers is a migrant. Their visa is tied to their employer. If the employer closes, or lets the contract lapse, or simply stops renewing the work permit, those workers do not become unemployed. They become illegal overnight, with 30 days to find alternative sponsorship or leave the country. The Philippines government repatriated approximately 1,500 to 2,000 of its nationals from Dubai. In the first weeks of the conflict alone, a fraction of the tens of thousands who were placed in uncertainty with no mechanism to demand accountability and no union to call. These are not statistics. These are the people who made your bed, who set your table, who smiled and asked if everything was all right. Now, let us talk about the hotels themselves, because the headline number 15% occupancy does not capture how differently this crisis is hitting different parts of the market. Some properties collapsed faster than others. CoStar reported that by mid-March, Dubai's weekly occupancy had hit 22.8%, its lowest level since April 2020, the worst pandemic week. Some individual luxury properties fell below 5%. Fairmont, the Palm, one of Dubai's most photographed hotels, made international news on the first day of the conflict. Not for the right reasons. Drone debris caused a fire visible from across the water. The hotel stayed open, but the image traveled, and images travel faster than any tourism recovery campaign ever has. In response, that same hotel was later offering rooms at AED 900 per night, with breakfast included, rooms that were going for significantly more a month earlier. The rate drop was not a promotion, it was a distress signal, dressed in polite marketing language. The Jumeirah Burj Al Arab closed for renovation. So did the Anantara World Islands. The Radisson Blu Media City announced it would close and reopen under a different brand. The Park Hyatt went offline. The Armani Hotel closed April 1st with no reopening date. The St. Regis Palm took rooms offline until August. This is what the industry calls opportunistic renovation. You close when there is nothing to lose in revenue. Because there is no revenue. But read that list again. The Burj Al Arab, the Armani Hotel. These are not B-tier properties, closing for a quick repaint. These are the properties that Dubai built its global identity on, and they are dark. The hotel sector entered 2026, projected to grow. STR data from CoStar showed an 81% average occupancy in 2025 and a 3.4% growth forecast for 2026. New supply was being added. New investors were committing capital. The pipeline for luxury hotel rooms in Dubai through 2027 represented tens of billions in development, all of it planned for a market that as of today is running at a fraction of its designed capacity. Here is the question that the travel industry is too polite to ask out loud. Who did Dubai build all of this for? In 2025, tourism contributed nearly $70 billion to the UAE economy. That was 12% of national GDP, not 12% of the hospitality sector, 12% of everything. the entire country produced in a year, and within that, $70 billion the breakdown revealed, a specific dependency that is now the source of every problem. 70 to 80% of revenue across Dubai's hotel and restaurant sector came from international tourists, transient expats, and corporate entertainment, not from residents, not from the community that actually lives there year-round. When the tourists left, the revenue did not reduce by 70 to 80%. It disappeared almost entirely because residents, the people who actually live in Dubai, are not the customer base that this industry was built to serve. They were never the plan. Compare that for one moment to Istanbul, to Tokyo, to Paris. In those cities, restaurants exist first to feed the people who live there. Tourists are a welcome addition to a foundation that does not require them to survive. When visitor numbers fall in Paris, the neighborhood cafe on the corner stays open because the people on that street still need lunch. Dubai has no neighborhood cafes. Dubai has hotel lobbies and rooftop bars, and when the tourists stopped coming, those places had no floor. A hospitality consultant with over a decade of experience in the region said something precise and uncomfortable. She said, Dubai built the most impressive hospitality infrastructure on Earth on top of a demand base that could evaporate overnight because it was always made of visitors, not community. When the visitors left, the infrastructure did not become cheaper to run. It became a liability. There is one more layer to this story that the hotel industry's own press releases will never volunteer. The workers who are now on standby, the ones earning nothing, while their visas remain technically active, are sending that nothing home. Before the crisis, the UAE was one of the world's largest sources of remittances. Workers in Dubai's hospitality sector sent money every month to families in India, the Philippines, Bangladesh, Nepal, Ethiopia, Indonesia. Not large amounts by Dubai standards, 200, 300, sometimes 400, but to the family receiving it in a village in Kerala or Cebu, that money was the school fee, the medication, the electricity bill, the thing between stability and crisis. That money has stopped. Not everywhere, not all at once, but for tens of thousands of families across South Asia and Southeast Asia. A payment that used to arrive on the 25th of every month did not arrive in March, did not arrive in April. May is coming, and the outlook for many of them has not changed. Dubai's hotel crisis is not contained inside Dubai. It traveled quietly, without headlines, without the Financial Times tracking it. It landed in village bank accounts in countries that no travel journalist is visiting right now. And in those places, nobody is talking about occupancy rates or renovation timelines. They are talking about whether the person sent to Dubai is coming home and whether they are coming home with anything. As of this week, the UAE government has lifted most air travel restrictions. The Civil Aviation Authority announced that international airlines can resume normal operations. The $272 million support package that Dubai announced for hotels and tourism businesses is in place. Deferred fees, suspended charges, emergency liquidity for operators. Moody's Analytics has said recovery is unlikely before early 2027. The market intelligence firm STR has noted that even with the airspace open, traveler confidence takes months to rebuild after a security event of this scale. A hotel that emptied in a week does not fill again in a week, and the workers who were placed on standby in March are still waiting, not for an announcement, not for a press conference, for a shift card with their name on it. The general manager, who stood in his lobby on March 3rd and counted 11 breakfast guests, told one more thing before ending the conversation. He said, "The hardest part was not the revenue. Revenue can be rebuilt. The hardest part was that he knew exactly what was going to happen to his staff, and he could not stop any of it. He could defer it, he could soften it, but the structure of how Dubai works meant that the people who had the least power had the most to lose. He is still open. He is still paying what he can. He has not yet closed. The towel cart is still in the hallway. So I want you to sit with tonight when you open Instagram tomorrow and a travel influencer posts a reel of Dubai with golden hour lighting and the Burj Khalifa in the background. The caption full of words like timeless and dream destination. Ask yourself one thing: who is standing in the hallway behind that frame? Who arrived at 5:45 in the morning to make that lobby look like it does? Who has not been paid in 6 weeks and whose visa clock is ticking? We are not telling you not to travel. We are not telling you who to blame. We are asking you to see the full picture, because the machine that builds the dream is made of people. And when the dream stops selling, those people do not get to stop either. Dubai's hotels will likely recover, history says, as they will. The infrastructure is real. The geography is permanent. The connectivity will return. But the workers who carried this industry through its best years and are now carrying the silence of its worst deserve more than a recovery plan that treats them as interchangeable components to be switched on when the tourists come back and switched off when they don't. Tell me what you think in the comments, because this is not just about Dubai. This is about every city that built an economy on visitors and forgot to build it for the people who actually live there. And if you think this is the complete picture, it is not. What we are investigating next goes inside the labor camps, where the workers who built these hotels are waiting right now, what they are eating, what they are owed, what the law says they deserve, and what they are actually receiving. Subscribe. Because the story does not end when the tourists come back. It ends when the people who make the dream possible finally have the same rights as the dream they were hired to sell.